Hi, my name is Ashley Kolb. I'm a nurse patient advocate with Caregiver Support and Resources, serving families navigating dementia care in the Tampa Bay area. As a patient advocate, my job is to help clients and their families navigate a healthcare system that can feel overwhelming, especially when a dementia diagnosis is in the picture. I sit with families at doctor's appointments, help them ask the right questions, and make sure nothing falls through the cracks. My work includes care coordination, patient portal access and management, medical record review, and caregiver coaching, so families feel supported and informed every step of the way. A big part of that work is helping caregivers get organized, making sure critical medical information is documented, up to date, and accessible to the right people at the right time. Whether that's a specialist who needs a medication history, an ER team who needs to know about a diagnosis, or a family member who suddenly needs to step in. Having that information ready can change outcomes. One of the things I'm most passionate about is helping caregivers work smarter. And today I want to show you that the right technology set up before a crisis hits can make an enormous difference in the safety of your loved one and your own peace of mind. Dementia is an umbrella term for a group of conditions that affect memory, thinking, behavior, and the ability to perform everyday activities. Alzheimer's is the most common form, accounting for 60 to 80% of cases. It's caused by abnormal protein deposits in the brain, amyloid plaques, and tau tangles that disrupt communication between brain cells and eventually cause them to die. Gradual memory loss, especially recent memories, is typically the earliest sign. Vascular dementia is caused by reduced blood flow to the brain, often following a stroke or series of small strokes. Symptoms can appear more suddenly than Alzheimer's and may include difficulty with problem solving, slowed thinking, and trouble with organization. Lewy body dementia is also caused by abnormal protein deposits, and those are called alpha synuclein. Symptoms include visual hallucinations, fluctuating alertness, sleep disturbances, and Parkinson's like movement changes, such as tremors and stiffness. Frontotemporal dementia, or FTD, affects the frontal and temporal lobes, which control personality, behavior, and language. Unlike Alzheimer's, memory is often preserved in the early stages. More commonly, this is diagnosed in people under 65. Families often describe dramatic personality changes before a diagnosis is ever made. According to the Alzheimer's Association facts and figures, 1 in 3 seniors die with Alzheimer's or another type of dementia, and nearly 12 million unpaid caregivers, which are usually family members such as spouses, adult children, and siblings, provide an average of 31 hours of care per week unpaid. This care was valued at over $413 billion in 2024. And the thing is, when an emergency strikes, most families aren't ready. 70% of dementia caregivers report that coordinating care is stressful, and more than half say navigating the healthcare system is difficult. Most families are reactive rather than proactive, and that's exactly what today's presentation is designed to help change. So, we're going to talk about the tools to help you get ahead of that crisis. So we'll start with talking about password managers. And a password manager is a secure digital vault that stores all usernames and passwords in one place and is accessible to trusted family members when needed. LastPass is a popular and user-friendly service, does have a free tier available, but it is worth noting that they did have a significant security breach back in August of 2022. And so I personally believe that there are better options out there, such as OnePass, which is considered highly secure because that uses a two-factor authentication with both a master password and a secret key that is generated and stored on the user's local device. Now, I personally use KeePass, which is free and open source. The database file is stored locally on the machine but it can be configured for cloud storage from multiple devices. Um, a great addition that came up after our live presentation, one of the audience members mentioned, is Bitwarden, which is also open source, which means that the code is publicly available for anyone to audit. Bitwarden servers have never been breached, and it is also considered highly secure. A few tips about creating a master password. Length matters more than complexity. So a 20-character passphrase beats an 8-character random string of characters. I recommend people build from a memorable sentence or a quote that means something to them, and then adding symbols and characters along the way. So substitute O's for zeros, I's for exclamation marks, A's for at symbols. Don't use obvious substitutions like the word password and then using the at symbol for the A and then a zero for O because the word password has been way overused. And don't reuse your master password anywhere else and don't store it digitally. At the end of the day, any password manager is better than none. The goal is to make sure a trusted family member can access critical accounts if something happens. One of the biggest challenges in dementia caregiving isn't just the hands on care, it's the information management. Medical records scattered across multiple providers, legal documents no one can find, family members who don't know what's going on or can't agree on next steps. These tools help solve that problem before it becomes a crisis. Everplans is focused on planning and legacy, what needs to be in place for when something happens. So, wills, advance directives, insurance policies, financial accounts, funeral wishes, even passwords, and personal letters to loved ones. You designate deputies or trusted people who get controlled access to specific sections of your plan. Motivity Care is an active caregiving management platform. Think of it as a secure hub for the ongoing caregiving journey. It stores medical, legal, and financial records, streamlines communication between family members and providers, and connects you to vetted concierge services for things like finding aides or evaluating senior living options. What makes this particularly useful is if you have a complicated family situation, you have very granular permission controls. You decide exactly who sees what. And if there's a family member who tends to stir the pot, you can control their level of access. It also creates a documented, time stamped record of care decisions, which matters enormously if disagreements arise later. For both Everplans and Motivity Care, um, where families have issues regarding trust or roles are disputed, having everything documented in a secure, auditable platform removes a lot of ammunition for conflict. So these aren't just organizational tools, these are protective as well. Now, primary record is my go to, and I use this regularly. Most of us now have multiple patient portals, one for primary care, one for the cardiologist, neurologist, multiple hospitals. Primary record consolidates them all into one place. And what I find particularly useful is the AI chat feature, where I can ask specific questions like, what were mom's sodium levels back in March? And get an answer without having to dig through pages of lab results. For caregivers managing complex medical situations, this is a significant time saver. And then finally, I have Caring Bridge, which solves a problem that every caregiver knows, the exhausting cycle of updating everyone individually. You create a private page, post one update, and everyone who needs to know gets it at once. The support planner feature is particularly useful. It lets friends and family sign up for specific tasks like bringing a meal or giving a ride, so help actually gets coordinated rather than just offered. It's completely free, no ads, no subscription. I want to make a quick honorable mention, another free option, and it's not perfect, but as a starting place, if you're in a rush to get up to speed in a caregiving type role, is Google Drive. And you can create a shared folder, scan in documents, keep a running medication list, and create a shared calendar for coordinating appointments across family members. Google is not HIPAA compliant, so data is not fully secure, but it is a practical tool for families who need something simple and free. I recommend starting somewhere, even if it's just the Google Drive, and then building up to one of these platforms when you're ready. Here, I want to share a couple of screenshots. This is a screenshot of primary record, and you'll note on the left-hand side, there's two portals connected. I can pull a medication list of conditions, allergies, labs, and so on. And then in the middle here is the AI chat assistant. And you'll see at the top, I said, summarize the last 6 months of activity for a medical professional. And then underneath, you can see the date ranges that it's pulling data from. And then it lists out major medical events, routine care visits, medication changes, and key lab findings. In a pinch for a caregiver who is exhausted or overwhelmed, this is something that you can do right in the doctor's office. I mean, I advise doing this ahead of time, but it's so easy to use that you could do this on the fly and then hand your phone over to the doctor for them to review real quick. And then next, here's a screenshot of Caring Bridge. And I just made this account yesterday just to test it out, particularly asking for requests. And it reminds me of posting to social media, and you specify, what it is that you need help with. And you can even post it to Facebook while you're looking to post it on your personal caregiver page. So here I want to take a moment to correct some pricing I mentioned during the live presentation. The figures I quoted were not accurate, and I apologize for any confusion. Please use the following as a reference and always verify directly on each company's website, as pricing can change. But there is no one size fits all solution when it comes to technology for dementia. As the disease progresses, needs will change. What works well in the early stages may not work later. The goal is to match the tool to where your loved one is right now, while keeping an eye on what's next. All three of these tools make it easier for family members to connect and communicate remotely, which matters enormously for caregivers who don't live with their loved one. Starting out with the RAS memory phone, this runs on Android 14 operating system. This is designed specifically for people with dementia. To make a call, just tap the picture of the contact. The caregiver manages everything remotely through an app on their phone, managing contacts, settings, even quiet hours so mom isn't calling at 2 a.m. Two of the most valuable caregiver features are incoming calls are restricted or can be restricted to approved contacts only. So no spam calls, no robocalls, no scammers getting through. And for a population that is highly vulnerable to phone scams, this alone is worth the price of the device. The RAS emergency service is a great option as well. Imagined emergencies and repetitive 911 calling is common in dementia. And so rather than dialing 911 directly, emergency calls are routed to a private dispatch service. Text alerts go to the caregiver, who can interact with a trained agent to assess what's actually happening. The agent then contacts 911 or stands down as appropriate. This alone can prevent a lot of unnecessary emergency responses and the stress and cost that comes with them. It does require a separate subscription. Annual cost is $130. The phone itself is $369 as a one time purchase. There is no monthly fee other than the wireless service that you subscribe to. So let that be Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile. Alternatively, you can sign up for Affinity Cellular, which operates on the Verizon network. The first 3 months are free, and then it's $20 a month afterwards. Then we have LEQ, an AI companion robot designed for older adults living alone. She initiates conversations, offers reminders, think medication and hydration reminders, but also plays music, leads simple wellness exercises, and builds a relationship over time, remembering things that the user has told her. Users interact with LEQ on an average of 20 times a day. Important to note, this is not an emergency response device. Price is $250 for one-time enrollment fee, and then $40 to $60 monthly, depending on which membership you choose. Hardware is leased as part of the subscription, and the first month is free. And then finally, we have Jubilee TV, which turns an existing TV into a family communication hub. Family controls the TV remotely from their phone, so they can change channels, adjust volumes, start a show. Video calls go directly to the TV, so there's no phone needed on the senior's end. It also has a drop in feature for quiet one way check ins through the camera and the microphone. Also sends reminders and photos to the TV screen. Plans start at $40 a month or $390 a year, or you can pay a one-time fee of $789 where there is no recurring fees after that. But think about which of these might fit where your family is right now. A RAS phone might be a first step. LEQ might fill in a loneliness gap. Jubilee may solve the daily TV frustration that's driving everyone crazy. One of the greatest fears a dementia caregiver carries is the call that their loved one is missing. Wandering affects up to 6 in 10 people with dementia, and if not found within 24 hours, up to half may suffer serious injury or death. Angel Sense is the most purpose-built option for dementia, uses real-time GPS tracking, two-way voice communication, you can listen in via audio, and has routine-based alerts when something seems off. But what I like about Angel Sense is the accessories that I'm showing here. You can use the GPS tag and insert it in the back of the sports bra, and there's a little pocket located underneath the logo. And then alternative to that, if you end up going with a smartwatch option, they have a lockable wristband. The only thing to note here with that though is you'll want to make it a regular practice to switch wrists and do regular skin checks. Apple AirTags and Samsung Smart Tags are a low cost starting point. There's definitely a lot more options for Apple AirTags as far as accessories that you can find on Amazon to help track your loved one. And then during the live presentation, I had talked about Project Lifesaver, which uses a radio frequency bracelet, and then trained law enforcement can respond with tracking equipment when someone goes missing. And this was a comment that had come up recently in my TikTok account. However, last night, one of the audience members, and I'm so thankful she brought this up, for Pinellas County, there is a program called Safety Net Tracking, and you can look it up at safetynettracking.com. But you can also reach out to the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office to see um, to learn about signing up to the program. A smart tag today may need to become an angel sense tomorrow. Set up whatever makes sense now and revisit it as the disease progresses. Medication errors are one of the leading causes of hospitalization in people with dementia, and it's not because families aren't trying. It's because managing multiple medications across multiple schedules is genuinely complicated, and one missed or doubled dose can have serious consequences. These devices take the guesswork out of it. So think about this scenario. A spouse with mild cognitive impairment living at home who has always managed the household medications for themselves and for their partner. As cognition declines, that's no longer reliable. They may forget a dose, take it twice, or mix up whose medication is whose. So the person who has always been the caregiver now needs some help. And this is exactly where these tools come in. Shown here in this slide, we have two medication dispensers, the Hero Smart Dispenser and the LivyPod pictured here for this slide. Both store up to 10 medications and automatically dispenses them on schedule. The Caregiver app tracks every dose, sends alerts for missed doses, and allows for remote schedule changes. And you can also lock the dispensers so the person can't access the medications outside of scheduled times, which is very useful for someone with dementia who may not remember that they already took a dose. Now, the Hero Smart Dispenser, this is subscription based only, and price ranges from $30 to $45 a month, and the first month is free. Versus LivyPod, this is not subscription based. The one pictured here with the 10 pods and the lockable case, that is a one-time fee of $1,300. Bottom line, Hero is sleeker, simpler, but you're paying a monthly fee indefinitely versus the LivyPod is the buy it once and own it option. It has more flexibility and ultimately is cheaper in the long run if the person being cared for is on a stable medication. Home monitoring cameras aren't about surveillance, they're about peace of mind and smarter caregiving. For families navigating dementia, they solve some very real practical problems that come up frequently. One use case is for falls. When someone with dementia falls, one of the most critical questions is how they fell. Did they hit their head? Did they go down slowly or collapse suddenly? That distinction determines whether you're looking at an ER trip and a head CT or whether you can safely manage it at home. A camera gives you the ability to pull up that footage immediately and make an informed decision rather than defaulting to a costly, disruptive ER visit out of uncertainty. For caregivers and for clinicians, that information is invaluable. Second useful case is for nighttime monitoring. Caregiver burnout is real, and one of the biggest drivers is sleep deprivation. If you're sharing a home with a loved one who has dementia, you may be sleeping with one ear open every night. A camera in the hallway or common area means you can sleep in your own room and simply check your phone if you hear something, or set up motion alerts so you're only notified when there's actually activity. And then a third use case is monitoring paid caregivers or anyone that you allow into your home to perform a service. It's a little bit of a sensitive topic, but I think it's important. When you bring a homemade or CNA into your loved one's home, you're trusting a stranger with someone who may not be able to report mistreatment or neglect. Cameras provide accountability for the caregiver's protection as well as your loved ones. Most professional caregivers have no objection to cameras when they're disclosed up front. If someone does object strongly, that's worth paying attention to. I do want to make a quick note. Based on feedback from our live presentation, I changed the bottom note regarding privacy to say choose cameras with local storage options. And if you're using a cloud based camera, just make sure you can opt out of footage sharing and do your research on any brand before buying. Everything we've talked about today, password managers, document platforms, trackers, and cameras, none of it helps if it's not set up before you need it. And that's the whole point of this slide and really this presentation to really prioritize these items now. And I can speak to this personally. When my dad passed away suddenly in 2020, he had a key pass set up, and because of that, I was able to close out his account and stay organized through what was genuinely an overwhelming administrative process on top of grieving. And I can't tell you how many hours that saved me. If my dad's death taught me anything professionally, it's that preparation really is an act of love. So, I want to take a moment to shift gears because everything we've talked about today, all these tools are designed to help and connect. And they exist in a world where bad actors are paying close attention to. And the people we're trying to protect are some of the most targeted. So, before we wrap up, I need to talk about something that doesn't get discussed enough, which is financial exploitation. Specifically, elder financial exploitation is the illegal or improper use of an older adult's funds, property, or assets. And what most people don't realize is that the perpetrator is usually not a stranger. According to AARP, 72% of elder financial theft is committed by somebody the victim already knows and trusts. Think an adult child, spouse, caregiver, neighbor, or even a fiduciary. People who have access, who have earned trust, or who may even genuinely care about the person. Adults over 60 lose $28.3 billion dollars every year to financial exploitation, and the average victim loses 120,000, which is roughly equal to an entire life savings in a 50 plus household. In many cases, that money is gone for good and there's no getting it back. And these numbers are conservative. Experts believe the real figure is far higher. Most victims never report it. When the perpetrator is a family member, shame, loyalty, and fear of losing a relationship keeps victims silent. And that silence is exactly what abusers are counting on. Now that we've talked about who's doing this and how much it costs, let's talk about one of the most common methods they use to get your money. And this one is evolving fast. Vishing stands for voice phishing. It's a phone scam where someone calls pretending to be your bank, the IRS, Social Security, Medicare, or even a family member and tries to get you to hand over money or personal information. This isn't new, but what is new is AI. We heard a lot about this at the B-Side Cybersecurity Conference this past weekend. AI voice cloning technology can replicate someone's voice from just a few seconds of audio, a voicemail greeting, TikTok video, Facebook reel. Criminals are using this to call grandparents pretending to be a grandchild in trouble, saying, "Grandma, I'm in jail. Please don't tell mom. I just need bail money." And the voice sounds exactly right. And that's why we can no longer trust our ears alone. I recommend for families to set up a safe word or a safe passphrase. This is the single most practical thing you can do today. Agree on a secret word or phrase with your family, something only the real people in your life would know. Make it specific, make it memorable. If you ever get a call from someone claiming to be a loved one in distress, ask for the safe word or passphrase before you do anything else. A scammer using a cloned voice won't know it. Don't trust the caller ID. Apps like Spoof Card make it trivially easy to impersonate any phone number, your bank, IRS, even your grandchild's cell phone. And anyone who calls you claiming to be from your bank or a government agency and asks you to act quickly, hang up. Call back using the number on the back of your card or from an official website. Any legitimate institution will not only understand that, they'll respect it. Any caller who pushes back on that is a scammer. So slow down. Scammers rely on panic and urgency. And the moment you feel pressure to act immediately, that is your signal to stop. The other scam I want to cover is one that's particularly devastating for older adults and one that almost never gets reported because of the shame involved. It's called pig butchering. And before you react to the name, that's intentional. The name is meant to be ugly because what these criminals do is ugly. Pig butchering is a long con romance and investment scam that originated in Southeast Asia and has exploded globally. The name comes from the idea of fattening a pig before slaughter. Criminals invest weeks or months building a genuine feeling relationship with their victim, gaining their trust and affection. before introducing what appears to be a lucrative investment opportunity, usually crypto. Once the victim has invested as much as possible, the platform vanishes and the scammer disappears, and the money is almost never recovered. Why are seniors the primary target here? Loneliness and isolation are an epidemic among older adults, and dementia caregiving makes this even worse. Spouses who are consumed by caregiving, widows and widowers who have lost their primary companion, people who have pulled back from social activities. These individuals are actively looking for connection, and scammers know it. They are patient, attentive, and incredibly skilled at making victims feel genuinely cared for. This often begins with something completely innocent: a wrong number text, a LinkedIn connection request, a Facebook message from someone attractive and friendly. The conversation is warm and flattering. They remember details. They check in every day. Over weeks, it feels real because emotionally to the victim, it is real. Then there's the investment pitch. Once trust is established, and they are very patient about this, they introduce a special investment opportunity, a platform only they have access to. Small early returns convince the victim to invest more. Family members sometimes beg them to stop and are dismissed. By the time it collapses, some victims have lost their entire life savings, and we're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars in some cases. Don't stay silent. This is probably the most important thing I want to leave you with on this slide. If this happens to you or someone you love, please speak up immediately. Tell family, contact Adult Protective Services, reach out to your state attorney general's office. The shame that is felt is exactly what the scammer is counting on to keep people quiet while they do it to somebody else. And speaking up is how we stop them. To close out the presentation, I want to let you know that you don't have to figure any of this out alone. This is literally what I do. Whether you're just starting to notice changes in a loved one, or you're already deep in the caregiving journey, or trying to get ahead of these things for yourself, reach out. We can talk through where you are, what's most pressing, and what tools or resources make the most sense for your specific situation. And don't forget to give us a follow on your favorite social media platform. I'm Ashley Kolb, and thank you all.